everybody, welcome to another episode of the GameSmith, where today we're going to be turning basic foam core into exciting treasure mounds. I'll see you at the table. We're going to start by creating a base with some dollar store foam core. I want to create a rather substantial treasure pile, one that would cause my players to throw caution to the wind, or perhaps make them very paranoid about what's guarding it. You should start with a plan. I'm going to outline a rough perimeter of the size of the base that I want to use. You can then take a second and smaller piece of foam core and outline another perimeter that will fit on top of the larger base. Whoops, I made this outline too big. That's easy enough to shrink down in order for it to fit. That's why we plan things out. The next step is to get a hobby knife that has a long edge just like this one. We want to use the hobby knife to bevel our edges. The outer edge of the foam should be flush with your work surface. Cut the foam core so the edges are angled down and away from the middle of the piece. Remove the excess outer edges of the paper and foam so that the outer edge is clean and flat. Next, we take our smaller piece of foam and cut it to the size and shape that will fit on top of the larger base. So I haven't really done any measuring here, I'm just eyeballing everything. And I now see that my second layer is too large, so I'm going to have to cut it down again. Cut away the excess at the edges and check the size and placement. Now to create a large mound shape, I will add a third layer using the same process. We don't want to make the treasure pile too high though. I'll spare you all a boring lecture on fluid dynamics and how large volumes of coins act as a fluid, and therefore don't pile up very high on themselves unless they're in a confined space. If you think of how loose Lego blocks disperse on the floor when you pour them out of the box, you'll know what I mean. Next, we want to glue our layers together. I'm going to use some Mod Podge to do this, but any PVA or other glue will work just fine. Just make sure that the glue goes right up to the edges so there's no chance that the paper will curl as the glue dries. Next, after our glue is completely dry, we want to smooth the edges of our foam core. I'm using an emery board, which is among the cheapest files around. It's just a nail file. I picked up 10 for $1 and we'll get multiple uses out of each of these. Smooth out the rough edges and create a gradual slope on the different layers. We are going to cover the build over, so you don't need to sand the piece down to a perfect edge or slope. Now we're going to mix some Mod Podge and some black acrylic crafter's paint in order to reinforce our base. I have some 50-50 mixture left over from a previous build, so I'll just use that. If you have gold or silver paint, I recommend that you use that instead of the black. You'll see why later. Make sure to paint the top and the bottom in order to reinforce the entire piece. Next, we're going to add some scatter features to our treasure pile. I have this dungeon furniture pack from Dungeon Saga that has these detailed treasure chests included in it. I want to use those for this build. If you're more inclined to make your own treasure chests, I encourage you to fire up your imagination engine and get busy doing that. I also left one chest open so I could decorate it further before I put the lid on it. I think I'll start with the lidless treasure chest by filling it half full with some hot glue from my dollar store glue gun. Once that's dry, I'll put some gold glitter glue over top in order to fill up the remainder of the space. I'll just push the glue up to the edges and fill in the corners as well. The dry time on the glitter glue is quite a while, so I have plenty of time to add some colored plastic gemstones. I picked up this pack of various sized gemstones at a chain hobby store. These will work just great. Take a moment to think about the scale of these gems compared to a 28mm miniature. A 1000-carat diamond is about the size of a tennis ball to you and I, so imagine the size of these gems from the perspective of a 28mm miniature. As a result, I suggest using these colorful gemstones rather sparingly. However, if you're not so literal and you want to scatter these gems around just for aesthetic effects, go crazy! Once the gemstones are in place, we want to glue the chest lid onto its base. In this case, the point is to glue the lid on so that it remains open, and the players can see what's inside. Next, I want to add some scatter weapons to my treasure hoard. I've painted some leftover banners, shields, and weapons from miniatures that I want to add to this pile. I think it's important to plan out where you're going to be placing your items ahead of actually gluing them down. I want to use this banner as a main feature on this treasure mound, so I think I'm going to find a place to put this. I think this is a good spot, so I'll just put a hole in my base in order to place the banner in it. This banner is rather delicate, so I need to be careful that I don't break it while I'm putting it on my base. I also want to have a general idea of where I'm going to place all my other scatter, and it'll help to take a picture of this when I'm done. I don't need an exact plan, but some kind of guideline will help me make sure that I have room for everything, or inform me that I have too much clutter on this piece. The extra pieces I can put on another treasure pile. Once these decisions are made, I want to glue the heaviest items to the base first, such as a treasure chest. Once I'm confident that it's secure, I'll add glitter glue to my base. I'm going to start with gold. I like the chunky glitter glue label because there are different sized round flakes mixed in with their clear glue, so it actually creates the illusion that there's different sized coins. The glue medium is also quite thick and it will actually hold a little bit of a shape. Once I have a few blobs on my base, I'll just use an old brush in order to spread it around. I don't need complete coverage because we're going to be adding other layers to the glitter glue, but you can see how having a gold or silver base might be helpful. Since the glitter is also a glue, I can add the open treasure chest to the top of this mound as another important feature. Once the gold is dry, I'm going to add a silver layer and repeat the process. Because we're using the chunky glitter glue, press it up against the side of the treasure chests in order to create small slopes. Make sure you get your glitter glue all the way to the edges of your build. This will help reinforce the edges against abuse at the game table. And if your players are anything like mine, you're gonna need it. Obviously, we could also create silver piles, not just gold ones. Make sure that you give the whole thing a few hours to dry. Taking a closer look at our pile, you can see that there are a few spots that still need to be covered, but that's okay because we're not done yet. Next, we're going to add a layer of chunky glitter gemstone glue. This is the same as the gold and silver product, but it's filled with different colored flakes that are mixed in with a silver base. This creates the illusion of multicolored gemstones within our treasure pile. I'm going to use this to cover all of the open spaces that are still showing the base black. Once this layer is done, I'm going to add another thin layer of chunky gold glitter glue. While the final gold layer is still wet, I'm going to add the rest of my weapons and shield scatter to the build. I'll use the picture I took earlier as a frame of reference for where I'm going to place these items. We can finish up by spreading out the remainder of our gold glitter glue, careful not to completely cover the lower colorful layers. Our final step is to add some clear nail polish to harden the glitter and give it an extra shine. I got this clear nail polish at the dollar store, and so I'm not concerned about using a whole bottle. Once the nail polish is dry, our treasure mound is ready for the table. I confess this treasure mound build is a bit of a vanity piece for me. I wanted to use up some miniature pieces and some store-bought scatter that I had laying around. The underlying tutorial will still work if you don't have any of these weapons or chests or other items available to you. If you have any suggestions for other scattered terrain you would put on your own treasure mounds, I'd like to hear from you in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support what we're doing here at the GameSmith, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget the bell notification and the thumbs up buttons too. You'll feel like you're changing the world when you click them. Well, you'll be changing mine anyway. In our next video, we're creating rocky outcroppings using real rocks inspired by Battlefield in a Box. Until next time, I'll see you at the table.